Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Mindy Egan, and in today's video, we are going to be coloring in die cuts for a whimsical and no line coloring look. The product that I'm going to be using today is the floral window die. So, this is going to create a beautiful floral border on the front of our card. It fits nicely on an A2 size card front. And when I run it through the die cut machine, it is going to pop out the center, which is where I thought a shaker card would come in really nice. I am using the Hero Arts Deluxe Smooth White cardstock. So after I die cut that, you can see where we have all the etchings for the floral design and that border, and then that nice wide open space. So I grabbed a piece of white cardstock, and I also wanted to have a little bit of blending in the background, which I will get to a little later on in the video. I really love the look of colored die cuts. So I am using my Olo markers, but you could use colored pencils. You could do some watercoloring. I'm also going to do just very minimal blending to add any shadow and highlight areas. I will admit I was a little hesitant at first to do this because some of the areas, the stems of the flowers get pretty small. So I started with the outside edge, or I guess I should say the inside edge, where there are some of those fine stems and the leaves. And then I ventured more into the edge of the cardstock where I really had to hold my marker straight up and down to get the very fine point of the marker. By being able to do that, I was able to really color in along that thin stem without any excess bleeding. So my starting color is the YG 1.4. So just starting out with a nice bright green. And then to add some shadow areas, I'm coming in with a YG 1.6. And I'm not going to do the blending. I am just adding a line of color to one side of the leaf. Doesn't really matter which one, I don't think. I wasn't concerned with where the light source was coming from. I just wanted to have that darker color there to give it a little bit of dimension. Then for the flowers, I am going to start with a BV 2.2. And I'm just kind of selecting more of the larger flowers that are around the frame and inside of the frame. One of the reasons I'm starting with my lightest color first is I don't want to overdo the coloring. I don't want to oversaturate the cardstock because I don't want that to lead to bleeding in those smaller areas. And by just adding that one small line of a shadow area, it's not, again, it's not oversaturating the cardstock. I'm not really blending it out, just adding a single line. So for that shadow layer, I am doing BV 2.3. So it's just a step up. Then for the smaller flowers, I'm going to come in with a YO. I think I grabbed a 2.2. It's a pretty light yellow, and I'm coloring in all of those smaller flowers. Then I'm just going to dot the center of some of those flowers with a YO 2.5, adding that little bit of darkness. So I didn't add any shadow areas to those small flowers. I just added that darker color for the center. I also used that YO 2.3 for the center of the larger flowers. And where I had room, I did a YO 2.7 for the shadow. I think this gives it such a nice, whimsical, and kind of an artistic look, almost like no line coloring. I have another piece of a white cardstock that is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. That's going to be the backer piece. And I wanted to have kind of this light hue coming in from inside of that frame. I'm using Dusty Blue from Hero Arts and a large blending brush from Spellbinders, starting with the outer edges and then just softly coming in. You can always bring your frame in to kind of test it out, see if you need to add more color. I was really happy that it was just kind of this soft glow in the background. In that floral frames a die set, there is an additional butterfly. I think there's a bumblebee and an additional flower. I played around with die cutting the butterfly from white cardstock, kind of fiddling with that idea. And then I have this large die cut word celebrate, which is from the set It's Our Anniversary Stamp and Cut XL. At first I die cut it from a white glitter cardstock, but I felt like it was getting lost. So I die cut it instead out of periwinkle. And I thought that really kind of brought in that soft blue that's in the background. So I die cut the celebrate two more times from white cardstock, and I'm going to layer that together with my liquid glue just to build up that dimension. Then I took a piece of acetate and I trimmed it to the same size as my panel, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm adding liquid glue to the back of my die cut window, and then I'm going to place the acetate actually over the top of that. So it's a lot easier to line up the acetate with the edge of the cardstock and then just push that down and kind of hold in place for a few seconds. Once that's secured, I'm going to line the edges with some foam strips. This is going to create our shaker well. So you want to make sure when you're placing your foam strips down that you are butting it up right next to the previous foam strip. We don't want to leave any gaps for any of our shaker bits to escape from. And the shaker pieces that I will be using are just some flat, clear sequins, so they're not super bulky. But if you do have something that does take up a little bit more room, you might want to double layer your foam strips. Now, once I have everything in place, I am going to take some Sequence Mix. This is a previously released pack from Hero Arts. I'm not sure if it's still available, but it does have just kind of some white and iridescent in there. There's also some sparkly stars. So I sprinkled that in there, made sure they were spread out so it's nice and flat. And then I'm going to remove the backing of my foam strips. And then I can take my ink blended panel and place that over the top. And then I'll just secure that down, give it a nice good press, and then I can flip that over and my shaker card works perfectly and no sequins are escaping. By adding that acetate, I'm also giving a place for my sentiment to rest because it kind of fit oddly over the window. Like some pieces were overlapping, but some were not. So this is also going to give me a nice resting place for my sentiment. Now, again, I am using some liquid glue. I got a little carried away or heavy handed with my liquid glue. So I'm taking my finger and just kind of rubbing off any of that excess because acetate does tend to show any glue that happens to seep out of the edge of the sentiment. So I wipe that away, place that over the top, make sure it's straight, and then I can just let that set for a second. I'm not going to add any additional sentiment on the front. That way, this card can be used for any occasion, whether it's wedding, anniversary, Mother's Day, birthday, anything. It's a great celebration springtime card. I hope you enjoyed today's video tutorial and technique and will give coloring on die cuts a try. I will have all of the supplies that I used in today's video linked down below in my video description and over on my blog. Thanks for watching.